Hello and welcome to this discussion on polity, and this is a very important discussion on emergency provisions in the Indian Constitution. And in fact, after talking about this, I will be picking up some questions also. So, when it comes to the emergency provisions, the Constitution has provided for Article 352 to 360. And emergency provisions, there are three types of emergency provisions in India. Article 352 talks about national emergency, 356 talks about state emergency or president's rule, and 360 deals with the financial emergency. Okay. So, 352, 356 and 360. Now, in the first discussion, let me talk about national emergency first, then I will be moving into state emergency and the the financial emergency. So, the first major heading is national emergency, article 352, national emergency. So, article 352 says, when the country is threatened by war, external aggression or internal armed rebellion. Okay. So, three words are there in article 352, when the country is threatened by war, external aggression and internal armed rebellion So, national emergency can be imposed on three grounds. National emergency can be imposed for war, external aggression and internal armed rebellion, or armed rebellion is mentioned clearly. Now, what is different in war and external aggression? War is an officially declared one. Okay, the President of India has the power to declare war or peace. So, President can declare war. This external aggression is, it is an undeclared war. War has not been declared. But fight is going on, like Kargil war, never between India and Pakistan, we never declared this war. Officially it was not a war, but it is an external aggression. Pakistanis entered into Indian territory and they occupied Indian territory. They have crossed the line of control for almost 25 kilometers in some parts of the Kargil, and that is and there is no officially, this was not officially declared as a war. So, it is called an external aggression. So, war, external aggression or armed rebellion or a likelihood of it. So, national emergency can be imposed if there is war, external aggression or a likelihood of it. So, or if it is threatened by that, okay, then the national emergency. So, national emergency can be declared for the whole country, can be declared for the whole of the country or a part of it. So, national emergency need not be declared to the whole of the country, it can be declared for a part of the country also. And national emergency, according to article 352, is declared by the President of India, President of India has the power to declare national emergency, and it can be declared only on the advice of the Council of Ministers in writing. Okay. In fact, it is clearly mentioned in the Constitution that this can be declared only after an advice by the cabinet, ministers in writing. So, the word cabinet, you might have seen in the parliament, the discussion in parliament, you might have seen that the word cabinet for the first time got introduced into the Indian Constitution through this article 352, and it is introduced in the 44th Amendment Act. Okay. So, please note this word cabinet, otherwise everywhere it is Council of Ministers what is written in our Constitution, but in this particular case in this particular case, word cabinet is clearly mentioned. It has to be signed on an advice by the council, the cabinet, not just council of ministers. Otherwise, everywhere else we are talking about council of ministers. It has to be signed by the cabinet in writing. In writing. So, this was added. The word cabinet was first time introduced into the Indian Constitution through the 44th Amendment Act, 1978. So, it has to be given in writing, and both the houses should approve this declaration of the emergency, the national emergency under Article 352 within 1 month. So, the next point is both the houses should approve in 1 month. So, it is not that you can keep on delaying it. So, they have to get it approved within 1 month. Okay, both the houses should approve it within 1 month, and national emergency will be in force for 6 months at a time. So, when it is imposed, so it is imposed for 6 months at a time, within 1 month for 6 months at a time. And one more very interesting thing is, once it is approved by the parliament, it is approved for 6 months. Okay. So, after within 1 month from the date of approval, okay, for 6 months at a time from the date of approval of both the houses. Okay, for 6 months at a time from the date of approval from both the houses. So, that means if national emergency is imposed on 1st January, say on 15th January the parliament, both the houses approve. So, that means from 15th January 6 months. Okay, that is what is clearly mentioned, 6 months from the day the parliament approves it. And parliament should approve with a special majority. Parliament should approve Article 352 with special majority. This majority is similar to, this special majority is similar to the the majority of Article 368. What is that? Similar to Article 368. Similar to Article 368. This majority is similar to Article 368. What is that Article 368? That is constitutional amendment. I will be talking about that separately. That is the majority of all the, I mean absolute majority plus 2/3 of the members present and voting. What is that? That is equal to absolute majority to two-fold majority. Even in the removal of the judges, we require this two-fold majority, absolute majority plus 2/3 of the members present and voting. Absolute majority plus 2/3 of the members present and voting. Okay. That absolute majority means majority of the strength of the house. Strength of the house is 545 means 273. At least 273 members should have approved, supported, plus 2/3 of the members present and voting. So, 2/3 of the, if almost all the members are present, so it will be more than 360 votes are required. So, that is the second, the 2/3 of the members present and voting will be more difficult than getting the absolute majority. Absolute majority you can manage, but what is difficult is 2/3 of the members present and voting. And plus, if the another point is, if Lok Sabha is dissolved, Rajya Sabha should approve it in 1 month. During the time of national emergency or when the president imposes national emergency, if Lok Sabha is dissolved, Rajya Sabha should approve. Even if Lok Sabha is not there, no problem. Rajya Sabha should approve within 30 days, within 1 month. Rajya Sabha should approve within 30 days. And as I already told, it should be approved by a majority similar to Article 368 or the double majority is required. And Parliament can extend national emergency for any number of times, but each time for 6 months, can extend for any number of times but each time for 6 months. So, it is not a permanent extension. I mean, you can extend, but each time it can be extended only for 6 months. So, just to come back to what we have said, let me see once again, you please article 352 for war, external aggression or internal armed rebellion for the whole of the country or a part of it, it can be imposed. That is second point. It can be imposed by the President of India only after an advice by the cabinet. Cabinet word is mentioned in the constitution now. Cabinet ministers in writing. After the 44th Amendment Act, it has been added. Then, but the house, both the houses should approve within 1 month. And for 6 months, this national emergency will be approved for 6 months at a time from the date of approval of both the houses. When the second house passes it, from that day onward for 6 months, then after the end of the 6 months, every time, before the end of the 6 months, both the houses should approve again so that it can be extended. Parliament should approve with a special majority that is similar to Article 368. That means absolute majority plus 2/3 of the members present and voting. And if Lok Sabha is dissolved, Rajya Sabha should approve. It can be extended any number of times. That is very important, any number of times, but each time it can be extended only for 6 months. Now, coming to the consequences of Article 352. What are the consequences of national emergency? Number one, as far as the Article 352, it will affect the federal character of the Indian Constitution. It affects the federation. It affects the federation. It loses the federal character because the state governments will function. Please note, state governments are not dismissed in Article 352. State governments will function. State governments will function. They are not dismissed. They are not automatically dismissed in Article 352. National emergency is going on, state governments will function, they are not dismissed, but state governments will function under the guidance of the center. Under the guidance of the center. They will function only under the guidance of the center. President, the central government can direct all the state governments. They will function. They are not losing, but the nation will attain a unitary characteristic. All, the state governments are there, but they don't have an independence. They cannot take anything independently. Even in the state list, the center can legislate, the union parliament can legislate in the state list. The union parliament can legislate in the state list. Union parliament can legislate in the state list. That means the items which are given to the states, please remember 61 items, right now 61 items are there with the states. For these 61 items also, the center also can legislate. The center also can legislate. 250, Article 250, it is very clearly mentioned. It says the union, during national emergency, the union parliament can legislate in the state list, and that legislation, so the state government, the state legislature also can legislate, both can legislate. So the state list will behave like concurrent list. That means the state list will behave like concurrent list. The state list will behave like concurrent list. Both are there, but this union government, union parliament also can legislate in the state list. The state list will behave like concurrent list. I already mentioned when I was talking about the center-state relations, according to Article 250. This legislation, what is made by the union parliament, will be valid during the national emergency plus 6 months of the expiry of the national emergency. This new law passed by the parliament in the state list, the new law passed by the parliament in the state list is valid during national emergency plus 6 months of the expiry of the national emergency, is valid during national emergency plus 6 months. This I have mentioned in the center state relation. So, the nation loses its federal character. The center is directing the state government, and the state governments, the state list, the legislative power of the state. The states can make law in the state list, but center also can make law in the state list. And this law will be valid during national emergency plus 6 months. So, that is it loses the federal character. The first point is consequence of Article 352. When it is imposed, the nation loses its federal character. It affects the federation. And number two, it affects, what are the effects on the legislature? The effects on the legislature. See, during national emergency, the Lok Sabha's life can be extended. Okay, suppose the Lok Sabha's life is getting over. Say, if normal circumstance, if there is enough life, there is no problem. But suppose the Lok Sabha life is getting over, or if it is approaching 5 years and national emergency is still going on, Lok Sabha's life can be extended by 1 year at a time, because no elections are possible in national emergency. When emergency is going on, elections cannot be held. So, the Lok Sabha's life can be extended by 1 year at a time, but again it can be extended for any number of times. So, but any number of times, it can be extended 1 year at a time, but any number of times. But any number of times, it can be extended 1 year at a time, but any number of times. Another very interesting point is, but in between, after, if the Lok Sabha is in an extended life, imagine it already completed 5 years, it got 1 year extension, but during the extension, if the national emergency is withdrawn, say, just to give a crude example, let me just tell you, say Lok Sabha's life is getting over on 2025, say February 1st, but national emergency is going on. So, we extended the life to 2026 till January 31st, the life is extended. So, it is already in an extended life. Now, say in or April, say April 2025, April 1st, the national emergency is withdrawn. Even though the life has been extended by 1 year, you cannot wait for January 31st, 2026 to have the election. So, once the national emergency is withdrawn, if the Lok Sabha is in an extended life, election should be held within 6 months. Then elections should be held within 6 months. So, again I am just repeating, please do not get confused. If Lok Sabha is in an extended life, only in that case, if Lok Sabha is in a normal life, if national emergency is withdrawn, the normal activities will continue, election will be held only when after the expiry of the 5 years. But here we are talking about national emergency, so Lok Sabha is an extended life. If Lok Sabha is in the extended life, and if national emergency is withdrawn in during that time, then election should be held within 6 months. So, Lok Sabha's life can be extended during national emergency, and I already said state list will behave like concurrent list. Now, coming to the third, the financial relations. During the national emergency, what will happen to the financial relations? See, the financial relations also will be affected, because the India country is in danger. War is going on, or external aggression is going on, or an armed rebellion is going on within the country. So, naturally, the financial aspects also will be changed. Okay. So, the president can modify the distribution of finance subject to the approval of the parliament. So, president can modify the distribution of finance subject to the approval of the parliament, subject to the approval of the parliament. The president can modify subject to the approval of the parliament. The modification should not exceed the end of the financial year in which national emergency is ended. So, another point is, if there is a, say suppose this 2021 financial year, we are talking about 2021. So, if national emergency is withdrawn during this financial year, then the modification suggested by the president should be ending in that financial year itself. It should not be crossing into the next financial year. So, whatever modification is there, it should not exceed the end of the financial year in which national emergency has been withdrawn. And a fourth effect is on fundamental rights. When national emergency under Article 352 is imposed, it affects the fundamental rights. And according to Article 358, is not Article 358 says, when national emergency is imposed under Article 352, when national emergency under Article 352 is imposed, especially for war or external aggression, for war or external aggression, Article 19 is automatically suspended. Article 358 says Article 19 is automatically suspended. Okay. Article 19 is automatically suspended. What is Article 19? Freedom of speech and expression. That is 6 basic freedoms. Freedom of speech and expression, freedom to assemble without arms, freedom to move around anywhere in the country, freedom to reside, freedom for job, freedom to form association. Please remember those 6 basic freedoms. This can be automatically suspended if the national emergency is for war or external aggression. If it is for war and external aggression, Article 19 is automatically suspended according to Article 358. But if it is for internal armed rebellion, 19 can be suspended. It is not that 19 cannot be suspended, but it can be done only through a separate proclamation. Now, Article 359 says, the next point is Article 359. Article 359 says, the President of India, see who will suspend this, even Article 19, see 19 is automatically suspended because President is announcing, President has announced, or he declared national emergency, automatically 19 is gone. Now, the President of India, Article 359 says, the President of India through a separate proclamation, can suspend all other fundamental rights except 20 and 21. All other fundamental rights except 20 and 21 through a separate proclamation, that is Article 359. Through a separate proclamation, President can suspend the rest of the fundamental rights except Article 20 and 21. What is Article 20? The right, during conviction, when you are about to be convicted, the right against ex post facto legislation. Please remember, right against self-incriminating evidence, right against double jeopardy. I taught in fundamental rights. So, the Article 20 cannot be suspended, 21 right to life and liberty. So, 20 and 21 cannot be suspended. And that means Article 32, which is the constitutional remedy, Article 32 is partially available. Please note, Article 32 is partially available, meaning, so in the fundamental rights, Article 30 is partially available. Article 32 is available for only those fundamental rights which are not suspended during national emergency. Article 32 is partially available. It is available only for those fundamental rights which are not suspended, those fundamental rights which are not suspended. So, that is why Article 32 is partially suspended. So, when we talk about the effects of the national emergency, we are talking about the effects, the consequences of Article 352 or effects of national emergency. Number one, it affects or it completely alter the federation, the federal constitution is affected, the state governments will function, but they are not dismissed, but they are working under the guidance of the center. The union parliament can legislate in the state list, and the state list will behave like a concurrent list, and the new law passed by the parliament is valid during national emergency plus 6 months. It is valid during national emergency plus 6 months. Then what are the effects on the legislature? The Lok Sabha's life can be extended by 1 year at a time, but as long as the national emergency is there, you can keep on extending if required. So, if the Lok Sabha is in an extended life, then if the national emergency is withdrawn and during the extended life, election should be held within 6 months of the withdrawal of the national emergency. I have just given that. Then as far as the financial relations are concerned, since the war is going on, external aggression is going on, the president can modify subject to the approval of the parliament, but again the modified financial arrangement will end during the financial year in which national emergency ended. Then it affects the fundamental rights also. Article 358 says Article 19 is automatically suspended for war and external aggression. That means for internal armed rebellion, 19 is not automatically suspended, but it can be suspended through separate proclamation, no doubt regarding this. 359 says President of India through a separate proclamation can suspend all other fundamental rights except 20 and 21. So, these are the effects of fundamental rights. So, the effects of national emergency on various aspects of our day-to-day life, including fundamental rights. Now, coming to the termination of the emergency, how the emergency can come to an end. Termination of national emergency. See, there are a proclamation of national emergency, there are 3 ways in which national emergency can end. One, if within 1 month, both the parliaments did not approve, automatically national emergency will be withdrawn, or rather it will be terminated. Within 1 month, both the houses should approve with a special majority. If the special majority is not there, national emergency will have to be withdrawn automatically. That is one thing. Second, after the end of 6 months, even if it is approved for once, after the end of the 6 months, if the national emergency is not extended, it will not be automatically extended, it will cease, it will stop. Okay. So, at the end of the 6 months, if the parliament could not approve it again, that will be the end of the national emergency, and the national emergency will be automatically ceased, it will be stopped. The third is the President of India at any point of time can declare the end of the national emergency. So, the President also can declare, the President can make a declaration to that effect. Meaning, the President can declare that a proclamation to cease the operation. Okay. It can be done at any point of time. The President can withdraw the national emergency, there is no problem, no parliamentary approval is required. Now, a fourth point is very interesting.